All right. Welcome back, everyone, for another deep dive.
Always a pleasure to be here.
So, today, we're tackling a topic that, well, let's face it, pretty much everyone has an opinion on.
Yeah, I think we're all kind of in the same boat there.
Exactly. Personal finances.
Ah, the love-hate relationship we all have.
It's funny, right? We got a request from a listener um, basically asking for, like, the ultimate 5-minute podcast on this whole thing.
A tall order.
Yeah, like, tell me everything I need to know about budgeting, investing, like all that, in the time it takes to make my morning coffee.
5 minutes. We could talk for 5 hours and barely scratch the
All
surface.
right. But hey, a challenge is a challenge, right?
Absolutely. Let's see what we can do.
So I guess for anyone who hasn't spent years geeking out on finance blogs, where do you even begin?
Well, I always tell people it's got to start with, like, your why.
Okay, your why. What do you mean by that?
Like, what do you actually want your money to do? What's the big picture?
So not just like, I want to be rich.
Well, that's part of it for some people, sure. But it's more about, like, what are your goals? What are you working towards?
So saving for a house, travel, early retirement.
Exactly. Or maybe it's starting a business, paying for your kids' education, whatever gets you fired up.
It's kind of like if you don't know where you're going, any road will get you there.
You got it. You need a destination before you can map out the journey.
Makes sense. So once you have that vision, then what? I guess budgeting has got to be the next step, right?
It is, but, that word budgeting, it kind of gets a bad rap.
Yeah, for sure. Like, it just sounds restrictive and boring.
It really does, but it doesn't have to be that way. Think of it more as like a spending plan.
Okay, a spending plan. That's a much better way to put it.
Right. It's about being intentional with your money, making sure it's working for you, not against you.
So, any like practical tips for actually creating one of these spending plans?
There are a ton of methods out there, but a good starting point is the 50-30-20 rule. Have you heard of that?
I have. Yeah, I've always been curious about it. Can you break it down for us?
Sure. Basically, it's about dividing your after-tax income into three main categories. So 50% goes to your needs.
Rent, groceries, bills, that sort of thing.
Exactly, the essentials. Then 30% is for your wants.
So, eating out, movies, new clothes, basically the fun stuff.
Yeah, all the things that make life enjoyable, but of course, within reason.
Right. You can have some balance.
And finally, that last 20% is dedicated to savings and debt repayment.
That's where the real magic happens, right?
It is. That's how you build financial security, reach those goals we talked about.
I think what trips a lot of people up is like actually sticking to a budget. It's one thing to write it down. It's another to like actually live by it.
You're so right. That's where tracking your spending comes in.
So like meticulously writing down every coffee and candy bar.
It can be that detailed if you want, but there are tons of budgeting apps out there that make it super easy.
Oh yeah, those can be lifesavers.
Yeah.
I use one myself actually.
They can be great. And, even if you're not a tech person, even just a simple spreadsheet or a notebook can do the trick.
The key is to just like be consistent and honest with yourself about where your money is going.
100%. Because once you see the patterns, that's when you can start making adjustments.
Exactly. Like, oh, wow, I'm spending way too much on takeout. Or I didn't realize how much those daily lattes were adding up.
And then you can make conscious choices like, okay, maybe I'll cook at home more often, or I'll try bringing my lunch to work a few days a week.
Exactly. Small changes can make a big difference over time.
Definitely.
So let's talk about like the other side of the coin, saving. You've got your budget, you're putting money aside. What do you do with it?
Well, that's where investing comes into play.
Another word that can be a bit intimidating, right?
I get it. It can seem like this whole other world, like you need a ton of money and expertise to even get started.
Yeah, I think a lot of people feel like, oh, that's just for like Wall Street types.
Not at all. Investing is for everyone. And these days, it's easier than ever to get started.
Really? So where does someone who's, brand new to this, where do they even begin?
One option that's become super popular, especially for beginners, is fractional shares.
I've heard of those. What are they exactly?
It's basically a way to buy like little pieces of a stock.
So like if you want to invest in a company that has like a really expensive stock price,
Mhm.
you don't have to shell out thousands of dollars to own a whole share.
You got it. You can buy just a fraction of it for whatever amount you're comfortable with.
Oh, that's actually really cool. It makes investing so much more accessible.
Right. And another great option, especially if you're not super comfortable picking individual stocks, is index funds.
Oh yeah, index funds. Those are kind of like the set it and forget it of investing, right?
Pretty much. Basically, it's a way to invest in a whole basket of companies all at once.
So instead of trying to pick the next, like Apple or Amazon,
Yeah.
you're just investing in like the whole stock market.
Yeah, like the S&P 500, for example, which tracks the 500 largest companies in the U.S.
I like that. It seems a lot less risky than trying to like time the market or bet on individual companies.
It definitely is. And for most people, especially those just starting out, index funds are a fantastic foundation for their investment portfolio.
So we've talked about goals, we've talked about budgeting, we've talked about investing. I feel like there's one piece missing here. What about financial planning?
Great question. And honestly, it's probably the least understood part of the whole personal finance puzzle.
Yeah, I think a lot of people hear financial planning and they picture like someone in a suit with a briefcase talking about like trust funds and offshore accounts.
Well, huh. It definitely has that image, right? But in reality, financial planning is just the process of bringing all these things together.
So it's not just for like the ultra wealthy.
Not at all. It's for anyone who wants to be intentional with their money, make sure it's aligned with their goals and values.
Okay, I like that. It's like creating a roadmap for your financial life.
Exactly. It's about looking at your overall picture, not just the individual pieces.
So whether you're saving for a house, planning for retirement, or just trying to get a better handle on your day-to-day finances, financial planning can be a huge help.
Absolutely. And it doesn't have to be this like overwhelming, complicated thing.
Right. I think that's what's so important to remember.
It's about taking it one step at a time, making informed decisions, and adjusting as your life changes.
So I guess to kind of wrap this up, what's one small step someone listening right now can take to like start feeling more in control of their finances?
Ooh, good question. There are so many possibilities.
Yeah, like it could be as simple as like downloading a budgeting app or finally opening that investment account you've been thinking about.
Exactly. Or maybe it's just like sitting down and writing down some financial goals.
Just like getting clear on what you want your money to do for you.
Because once you have that vision, everything else starts to fall into place.
Love it. Remember, everyone, every journey starts with a single step. And hopefully, this deep dive has given you a few ideas for where to begin.
And we're here to support you along the way.
Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time for another deep dive.